happening right now. Ontario's COVID science advisory table just moments ago releasing their recommendations on rapid testing. The advisory table's director, Dr. Peter Jüni, joins me now live to talk about those recommendations. I want to say good morning and thanks for joining us this morning, Dr. Jüni. Oh, it looks like we might have an issue there with
Can you hear
audio.
me?
There we go. We got you there, Dr. Jüni.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you. Thank you
Okay,
so
good.
much. First off, getting right to it with the recommendations, what does the Science Advisory Table recommend how rapid testing is used here within the province?
Well, we actually looked very specifically now at the situation in elementary schools. We're aware of that, all of us. Now we have a challenge. Vaccination has only started, so we have quite a lot of outbreaks in schools, and we want to keep in-person learning going. Now, that's the idea here now, just in the presence of Delta. And what we try to address in this brief is, all the concerns one can have, and there are a lot of concerns that needed to be addressed. So we took quite some time about, the false positives and the false negatives, etc. And the conclusions we came up with is that if you approach roughly, 50 cases per million per day somewhere in a neighborhood or a public health unit, it's probably not a bad idea to start to offer voluntary screen testing to students. Of course, it depends on the parents and the students, whether they take it up or not. And if you then actually just creep up, as we see it now, in places like Windsor Essex, Algoma, etc., where case numbers are much higher, you'll see also, some graphs that look again at the differences we have in the province. Then you probably even want to do the testing more often and also, start perhaps to test in other situations. The point really is there's a big difference between those who are fully vaccinated. You typically don't need to test those, and those who are not vaccinated or partially vaccinated, where if there's a positive test, where the probability that this is actually really just an infection is then much higher than in the vaccinated.
Okay, so you're saying you're focusing that more on schools. And if there is a difference between those who are partially vaccinated or unvaccinated, then yes, we have those younger kids who, of course, are just at this point only partially vaccinated, if not haven't received a first dose at this point. Testing to stay, that's another focus then. So in order to keep schools open, you want these rapid antigen tests to be used so that classes can still proceed, even though there is a COVID test positive.
Yes, so we need to be aware of that. There's always downsides. This wasn't completely clear. People always expect, okay, you test more and all is fine. That's not true. The downside of testing, if you offer this testing, is you also have false positives. And what you would like to avoid is that, that we have a false alarm and we close down classes completely and, go back to remote learning and so on. And so there is a possibility, and this has been evaluated in the UK, to offer voluntarily that people who are in a class, students who are in a class, can basically test daily with rapid tests. And as long as these tests stay negative, they can continue to be in class and have in-person learning. And this also gives them a bit more flexibility. One needs to remember, if you have a positive rapid test, you always need to confirm it with a PCR, because it could still be a false alarm.
So then how often does the advisory table suggest that students here in the province have access to these rapid tests? How often should they be tested?
It absolutely depends on the epidemiological situation. So there are public health units or also neighborhoods that struggle a lot, like Algoma, Windsor Essex, etc. There, it would make sense to test or to offer tests at least twice a week. If you are in a situation like, Toronto is approaching relatively soon. Right now, we don't even need rapid testing, or it's still quite okay. We're holding steady in Toronto. But when we're approaching about 50 cases per million per day or so, it would then be roughly once a week. You would offer it once a week and then see how it goes. And then if case numbers again go up, are perhaps fourfold as high as we currently have in Toronto, you start to think about, okay, now we should offer it probably twice a week.
Okay, and the calls have been growing from doctors asking that this rapid antigen testing be available for free to everyone in the province. I know that your recommendations focus heavily on schools, but what are your thoughts on having that available to everyone who wants one?
Oh, I think we do that stepwisely right now. It was important for once really to thoroughly address all the concerns that were justified and now do a first step, and focus from my perspective on those places that are really most affected because we couldn't vaccinate. And of course, students are in these schools together. That's from my perspective, a first step. And now, we should focus on that and try to sort out, where the challenges are. We're always talking about logistical challenges as well. It's not completely straightforward. In theory, all it's just, okay, you distribute these tests and all will be fine. In reality, things look a bit different. And PHUs will also need to find out how they organize themselves. And then obviously we could then potentially go down the road of, making this more available. Remember, students will get 5 tests home before Christmas anyway, meaning we start to have more tests in families. But this is, from my perspective, just the first step, an approach now, and then we can take it from there. And we can also look, if you're not kept that busy with Omicron, look into more indications in the future, also from the side of the science table.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us once again. That is Dr. Peter Jüni from the Science Advisory Table for Ontario. Thank you once again.
Thanks a lot.